The year was in 1966. Nigeria beheld a charming young military leader who masterfully steered the ship of state through a most trying period to peace and reconciliation. His name? Yakubu Jack Gowon, GCFR. Gowon's rise to power followed the July 1966 counter-coup. Consequently, Gowon served for the longest continuous period as head of state of Nigeria, ruling for almost 9 years. Gowon has been described as the Abraham Lincoln of Africa because of his deft management of the nation through a tumultuous 30-month-long war. As it is with Abraham Lincoln, the 16th American president, who right before his death cascaded into the national folklore and generations later are still attracted to the greatness of Lincoln and his character virtues. So it is with Yakubu Gowon, who right before our eyes cascaded into a living legend. His life examples provide powerful lessons: being honest in all dealings, possessing a never-ending quest for learning, facing fears and overcoming defeat, treating others with compassion, kindness and respect, standing up for and standing firm in what is right, and rising to the highest heights of service to humanity. Yakubu Gowon had a humble background. Born in 1934, he's from a minority Ngas ethnic group of northern Nigeria in the present-day Kanke local government area of Plateau State. His parents left for Usasa Zaria as missionaries in the early days of Gowon's life. Gowon grew up in Zaria and had his early life and education there.
General Gowon, even though born of parents from Plateau, grew up in Zaria, Usasa, next door to Barewa College. His parents were in the missionary services, and so he virtually grew up as a Zaria boy. And when he came to Barewa, he was registered as Yakubu Gowon Zaria, not Plateau, Zaria. And he eventually became, when I was in Form 1 and he was in his final year, he was the chairman of Zaria Boys Association of Barewa College.
While in Zaria after his elementary and middle school, the young Yakubu Gowon enrolled in Government College Zaria, now Barewa College, in 1950 with the admission number Barewa 783.
We both entered Barewa the same year. I left to Kene Middle School, Middle 1, did entrance exam to Barewa College to Secondary 2. And I passed, so I went to Secondary 2. He came from his school, the same Barewa. He did entrance to Secondary 3, and he passed. So he went into 3, I went into 2. So, but from Barewa, we were never classmates, and this 1 year difference continued.
I was fortunate to be admitted into Barewa College in 1953. And when I got into the college in my first year, General Gowon was already there in his 5th and final or 6th year. He was in the final year. At that time, school certificate was 6-year period. And so from 1953, when I got him, and I was also lucky to be given accommodation in one of the halls next to their own, Clifford House, next to Dang House, where General Gowon was also a student. Not only a student, he was the vice captain of that hall.
At Barewa College, Zaria, Gowon proved to be a remarkable athlete. He was a school football goalkeeper, pole vaulter, and long-distance runner. He broke the school mile record in his first year. He had many strong points in all school games and outdoor activities.
General Gowon was more than just a student in the classroom. in Burial College. He was everywhere. The reason why we got to know him very much was because he was very active outside his classroom. You can describe him as an all-round sportsman. So in competitions with other schools, you can expect that John Gowon would bring gold medal for Barewa in long distance running.
He was a polite student, promising and gentle. Like every active student, Gowon was involved in school administration. He was a house vice captain and the president of the school's prefect committee, an equivalent of the head boy in most Nigerian secondary schools.
From the very beginning, as a total gentleman, complete, missionary brought up with missionary outlook, and all his activities were related to missionary kind of way. The father was a reverend, in Usasa. So Gowon was a unique person among us.
In his final year in government college in 1953, the headmaster reported that Gowon was always alert and light-hearted. He also noted that Gowon had a charming disposition.
Gowon was such a gentleman that even when you were rude to him, he wasn't hurt at all. Some of us get hurt when they are rude to us, but he was totally a different character. I think his missionary training did a lot for him. I think I remember knowing his father. He was a quiet, simple person, but anchored in the mission and remained within the mission.
When he was prefect, on Sundays, he made sure that every Christian student was either in Wusasa church or he was in St. Andrews in GRA for Sunday services. And if he happens to be on duty on a Friday, it was his turn to put all of us Muslim students in our kaftans and so on to Zaria Central Mosque in the palace for Friday prayers. So this is how the man really has been molded virtually in every aspect of life.
I think I was privileged to have worked with General Gowon, because General Gowon, not only to me, but to anybody who has known him, he's a rare human being, a complete human being, gentle, but inside him very tough, unassuming. No matter who you are, no matter how volatile you may be, no matter how you speak, no matter your character, Gowon will accommodate you.
In January 1966, Gowon became Nigeria's youngest military chief of staff at the age of 31. In 1966, Gowon was chosen to become the head of state. Up until then, Gowon remained strictly a career soldier with no involvement whatsoever in politics until the tumultuous events of the year suddenly thrust him into a leadership role. He was particularly seen as a safe choice to lead a nation whose population was seething with ethnic tension.
General Gowon never staged it. For 3 days, Nigeria had no government. It was at that stage General Yakubu Gowon was invited by this young man to form a government. He didn't force himself in. So that's how General Yakubu Gowon saved the country, Nigeria, at the age of 31, 32.
He led the country for 9 years I think the record still stands that he's the longest serving head of state in the country, 9 years. Somebody who headed the country in crisis, saw it through the civil war, saw it through period of ending the war, see it through period of reconciliation and so on, and eventual transition process that will return the country to civil war.
As a true leader and patriot, Yakubu Gowon believes in Nigeria as an indivisible and indissoluble sovereign entity. Despite the problems and challenges of nation building, he has remained resolutely committed to Nigeria's unity, peace and stability, as an ardent believer in the enormous prospects of a united Nigeria.
Gowon stabilized Nigeria. Let us not forget that, He stabilized Nigeria. The civil war was to tear us apart. Everybody going his separate ways. And the regions were preparing for that. It was Gowon who came with his missionary zeal that stabilized Nigeria, and Nigeria came back on track to what it is today. If there had been no Gowon at that time, I'm sure everybody would have gone his way, because Northern region was preparing its own, the East was preparing theirs, the West were ready. They felt they were already even the independent. They didn't feel they had anything to do with us, The East was the only one that depended on our relationship. The West didn't care. The West believed they were already independent, and everything they did was crafted by them and executed by them, no relationship with anybody. But that was the federation that Gowon had to sew together, knit together as one unit.
When he left service, that was a man who had no business, no house at all. Bank account, I was told, there's nothing at all. Even his house was built for him. That is the type of leader he was. He did not amass anything to himself at all. And even now, he's not a rich man. He's just a devout Christian. That's all. So if leaders of today and in the future, and even those that are just of recent, have taken up to him, maybe this country would have been better.
There is no gainsaying that Yakubu Gowon's actions during and after the crisis period of the Civil War went a long way in helping to ensure that we still have a nation called Nigeria today.
But for his method of handling the Civil War and the aftermath of it, this country would have gone into pieces. And only God would know what it would be today.
Gowon's influence on Nigeria is really tremendous. He didn't create Nigeria, but he stabilized Nigeria. That's what I would like to say. He stabilized Nigeria.
Gowon displayed an uncommon trait of forgiveness and reconciliation in the famous declaration of No Victor, No Vanquished in the Biafran War, a feat today's leaders at various levels have several lessons to learn from.
Immediately after the war, in 1970, my governor said, let's go and congratulate General Yakubu Gowon. So we drove to Lagos, Dodan Barracks. And General Yakubu Gowon disgraced us. He said, would you go? What are you coming to do? To congratulate me for what? We don't fight a war with anybody. So it's family fight. So there was no victory, no banquet. People go home. And I have to bring the Igbos up. I know you're upset with was invaded, your people must be very angry. But that has to be part of the reconciliation.
What did he say at the beginning of the war? You will not do this, you will not do that, you will not do this, you will not do that, because at the end of it, there must be room for reconciliation. At the end of it, it happened. Not only did we reconcile, we progressed, and people got to know that really that man was a very sincere person.
He was so magnanimous, knowing that some of the people that decided to go the other way and declare themselves a different country had been his colleagues, some were even his mates. Now on coming back and wanting to keep the country united, he came up with ours. He came up with no victor, no vanquished idea that must have brought in the people, giving them the hope that they are now back home, and therefore they will be welcome and they will stay and develop the country together with the people that they fought against.
General Gowon's humane values guided his actions for his country and for the continent of Africa, and they are still valid through the noble mission he has been undertaking with courage and shrewdness for the development of Nigeria and Africa at large.
If you remember our history, you need a head of state who has ruled this country successfully and retired successfully and is keeping his peace and assisting in directing the nation from behind, not in front. Gowon was that person. And for him to continue to remain as the beacon of hope for the younger ones coming about what a leader should look like and what a leader should be even after leaving office, because that's important in Nigeria.
Legacy of peace. He has given us that, and we should be able to learn that it is when there is peace that we develop. While there is no peace, there will be no development.
So we are happy that General Gowon is celebrating his 90th birthday. All we can say to our elder is that we wish him another 90 years if possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite sure you will pardon me if I cannot answer any more of your questions. I wish you all the best of luck, but please pray and look after Nigeria for me.